Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now, 2008's Fallout 3 is an absolute classic that will run on just about any PC hardware, making it ideal for low-spec system users. After all, a Pentium 4 and a 6800 series GPU should be enough to run the game, but we all know how misleading developer-stated minimum requirements can be. In today's video then, I've combined a Pentium 4, 2 gigs of DDR2 and a 6800 XT, and we're going to see if this post-apocalyptic adventure will actually run with this ancient hardware, or whether it'll end up like Megaton in a low karma playthrough and just explode. So, I'll be honest, I may have cheated. We're using a 3.2 GHz Pentium 4 with hyper-threading, which is quite a bit faster than the 2.4 GHz chip suggested, but it still shares the same common attribute as the slower chip because it too is absolutely terrible. Using a super low resolution like 800 by 600 will cause the game to dip quite significantly, frame rate wise, because of the added load on the CPU, so going forward I'll be using 1280 by 720 as it was actually the more consistent way to play. So I thought I'd try something different here in terms of the whole setup. I'm going to appear in the top corner here and just talk you through what's going on. We're going to go for the low quality, basically leaving everything how it is by default and leaving the texture quality on medium as well. And of course we're using 1280 by 720. So let's get into the game and see what the minimum system requirements can actually do when it comes to Fallout 3. Now I know that this game is generally quite forgiving when it comes to certain hardware. It really doesn't take all that much to run at all, but the Pentium 4 and 6800 XT, well, they're not brilliant pieces of hardware. The 6800 XT, despite sounding pretty good, is actually one of the weaker 6800 series GPUs, I believe. There are so many. There's the GS, there's the Ultra, a couple more as well. I can't remember all of them. We'll just turn the music and stuff down here, just for the sake of copyright and things like that, just in case. We'll click... What should we do? Let's click continue from wherever we left off. I'm going to try and mute the mouse clicks and keyboard clicks as best as I can. Has that worked? I'm clicking the mouse. Hopefully that's worked. But yeah, let's jump in, and here we are just outside of the vault. Okay, as you can see, the frame rate isn't brilliant here, hovering around 20 to 30 frames per second, but for a Pentium 4, well, it's not doing too badly. Now what I'm going to do here, since I've leveled up straight away, is actually add some points to places where I wouldn't usually. Let's just repair the pistol, first of all, equip a pistol, to be honest. We'll go for, yep, there we go. Yeah, I thought we did level up as well. Okay, so I'm going to add things to science here because I never usually do repair as well. There is an option here that I usually regret not going with. It might be explosives because of the whole megaton bomb thing, but we won't tackle that task straight away anyway. So, as we make our way towards Springvale here, you can see that, yeah, 20 to 30 frames per second with a massive drop there. As you can see, the load on the CPU increased quite a bit. The thing with this Pentium 4, because of the hyper-threading, it's actually helping out quite a bit, I'd imagine. But, yeah. The reason the 6800 XT right now is saying 0% usage is because it's unsupported by MSI Afterburner. Let's just take out the iBot. Come on. Oh, I didn't like that. I zoomed in with VATS and the frame rate just dropped. Just got cut in half there. 9 FPS, 14, 12. Let's take him out. There's an explosion there as well, which didn't do the game any favours. Yeah, the reason the 6800 XT sits at 0% is because MSI Afterburner doesn't quite agree with this card. I don't know if it's drivers or if it's Afterburner itself. I don't know if it ever worked with this card. But I'm guessing that it should say 100% in terms of usage because this card is, in all likelihood, maxing out. Let's get into this hut here. Okay. Oh, alright, yeah. I remember how this goes. I must have played this countless times. Let's get through the speech check here. 30 FPS indoors isn't too bad. Let's try the speech check. Oh, 57%. Hit or miss it was there, but alright, let's just get a few of the caps. Do you know what? I wouldn't usually do this. I don't usually go for the evil playthrough, but we're just going to see if we can take the rest of her caps, as she wasn't willing to give them to us just now. The frame rate once again dropping to the mid-teens there as we fire our 10mm pistol. And a head has disappeared, which is always a good sign for Fallout. We'll take those extra caps. Yeah, you know what? It is playable, 60 FPS now. I am still able to have fun with this game, which I think is the main thing. There are some drops, but Fallout 3 in general seems to be quite slow-paced, so I don't really feel as if it's hindering the gameplay all too much. Of course, there are some drops, and of course, there are going to be moments in busier areas where the frame rate's absolutely going to tank. There are mods to be able to tackle performance with lower end hardware. There are clutter removers that basically takes away some of the rocks, some of the rubbish and that in busier areas. Rivet City, for example, is an area that's probably going to suffer. So a clutter remover mod would be really handy there in terms of increasing this frame rate, which is all over the place, but like I say, isn't really too bad in the grand scheme of things. Let's make our way into Megaton and see just how well the smoke effects aren't doing our hardware any favours. Let's see how the frame rate differs here. Alright, so we're going into Megaton. Despite the weak hardware, the game actually loads quite quickly. It's running off a standard hard drive, a 1TB Western Digital drive, so nothing special, no SSD. Let's get through the conversation with Lucas Sims. I do love Fallout 3, but honestly, I think Fallout New Vegas is probably my preferred Fallout game. That may be a controversial opinion, but personally I think New Vegas is the one for me. Okay, let's get through the conversation and make our way deeper into Megaton, see if the frame rate drops, because I imagine it's going to drop quite a bit. Go away, Lucas. No, go away. Let's skip this dialogue for now. Of course, I wouldn't usually skip this dialogue when I'm actually playing the game, but for benchmark purposes, we just want to get into the heart of town and see how things differ. So at the moment, we're still getting 30 FPS-ish, 20 to 30 for the most part. The game's playable. It's never been one for graphics, Fallout. But yeah, 40 FPS now. I think there's one specific area here in Megaton where the frame rate will really suffer. I think it's one of these buildings. There's like a community hall or something here. That if we go in, the frame rate should really dip. So we'll go up there and test that out. Just to see how things differ. Is it this building? Common house, yeah. If we go in here, the frame rate, yeah, as you can see already, 13 FPS. There's a lot of clutter here. This is where one of those clutter remover mods would come in handy. Because there are probably a lot of things scattered around the floor, things that don't really need to be there, but things that once removed can probably increase the overall experience. But I think we're going to leave it here for Fallout 3. The minimum specs, well, they are capable of running the game, sort of. We are using the faster Pentium 4 with hyper-threading, don't forget. I think a single core Pentium 4 clocked at 2.4 GHz will struggle a little bit more, but you should still be seeing 20 to 30 frames per second if you're using a similar graphics card. So if you enjoyed it, then leave a like on it down below, leave a dislike if you didn't, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.